Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our weekly Sunday school lesson. It's a pleasure to be with you once again. We are back home, we being my mom and I from Los Angeles. We had a wonderful time last weekend fellowshipping with the Opportunity Baptist Church. They're such a warm group and just they always have an open heart to us and invite us to come and to minister and to teach them, and so we're grateful. So before we get into the lesson, I want to say happy birthday to someone special. Happy birthday, Mike. I really appreciate your support. I also want to say happy birthday to Giannis. I missed his birthday. Giannis is my little children church student who always wants to be the teacher. God bless you both and happy birthday. Let's go to our lesson. We are in lesson 9. It is November the 1st. I can't believe how fast time has flown. It is now November, 2 more months left in 2020. It has truly been a challenging year, but we have made it through, and we're grateful to what God has done to keep us safe. And so our lesson today is entitled "The People Sin Against God." It is extracted from the 32nd chapter of Exodus. We transitioned from last week. We were in the 24th, so we skipped to the 32nd. And so, as usual, I will give you the background. I'll bring you up through the quarter, talk a little bit about last week briefly, and then we'll get into our lesson. And so we've been on a journey with the children of Israel when they were delivered from Egypt. The Lord delivered them from Egypt, giving them a new leader, which was Moses. He conquered the Egyptian army for them. They traveled in the wilderness and they had some challenges, but he helped them through their challenges. When their food ran out, he provided food. When the water ran out, he provided water. When they were being agitated by the Amalekites, they went into battle, and the Lord gave them victory. And also during this process, during this journey, they traveled to a location where they could just finally settle, and he began to give them some structure and give them some laws. So he gave them the 10 commandments, and not only once, not twice, but 3 times they were provided the 10 commandments, and that's important. And each time they said, we will obey, we agree, and we will obey. And in last week's lesson, the Lord invited Moses up to the mountain with Joshua, and he is now giving him some details on some things. And so that's where we start in our lesson today. Moses is on the mountain. He's been gone for 40 days. The Lord is instructing him on the priesthood, worship, and the tabernacle, and giving him these fine details on how he wants the children of Israel to construct and walk out these elements. But while he's gone, the children of Israel, can I use the word, began to get antsy and impatient, and they felt like Moses was gone, was not coming back, and while studying this lesson, I believe that the children of Israel were more focused on what they could see rather than on the God that they couldn't see. Even though God did what he could to help them realize his presence was there. There through the pillow, the cloud by day, the pillar of fire by night, through the miraculous acts. God even came down in a cloud and thunder. However, the people were still focused on what they could see. They were focused on Moses and considering Moses as the leader and Moses the provider. And so when Moses was not there to guide them, then they wanted something else that they could see. And so they got together and they asked Aaron. Aaron is Moses' brother, and Aaron was in charge. Moses left Aaron in charge. And so they came to Aaron and they said, we want you to make us a God. We want a God that can lead us. They knew they were going to a promised land, on their way to a promised land. But they wanted a God that was going to lead them. And so Aaron did not object. He thought it was very odd that they were asking this request. And as the leader, I believe he compromised, excuse me, but to give him credit, he did attempt to deter them by asking them, well, give me your gold, give me your wife's earrings and the gold that the Egyptians gave to you when you left Egypt. So they spoiled the Egyptians because the Egyptians gave them all of the gold and fine linen when they left, and so they willfully gave up their gold to make this calf. This is something they really wanted, and so Aaron he made a calf, if you will. He made a calf, and then he took the gold and he melted down, and he crafted the gold around the calf, and they had the golden calf. And so I love this story because I remember watching the Ten Commandments with Charleston Heston, and I watched it so many times I could almost quote it, and it was such a good story, but it's a true story. And so when we talk about what happened in this story, the Lord gave them the Ten Commandments, but they disobeyed. And so we want to go back to the subject. The people sinned against God. So when we talk about sin, I'll pause here. Sin, what is sin? We don't hear a lot about sin. We hear a lot about prosperity. Prosperity, God will bless you. He will do this. He will answer your prayers. However, sin, and I've talked about sin before, sin will build a wall up between humanity and God. And so what is sin? Sin is transgression against divine law. Each culture has its own interpretation of what it means to commit sin. Generally, sin are an action, thought, word, act considered immoral, selfish, shameful, harmful, or alienating. And so you have various sins. You have the original sin, which Adam and Eve committed. You've got the nature of sin, which after the fall we fell into. You've got intentional sin. You've got sin of surprise. You have the sin of infirmity. You have different levels and degrees of sin. There is some sin that you cannot be forgiven. But in John, the 5th chapter, he tells us that all wrongdoing is sin. And so you have also the sin of commission, which is what you do, and then the sin of omission, which you don't do, you forget to do. So you don't do it, and it's a sin. And so how did the children of Israel sin? The children of Israel sin in that they disobeyed when they agreed 3 times. They disobeyed God. They disobeyed 3 commandments, the first 3 commandments. And I'll read them for you. And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, For I am the Lord thy God, am a jealous God. And so you see these three things that the children of Israel did. They created a likeness of a calf. They called it their God, and then they worshiped it. And even in worshiping, they took this level of worship to an immoral level. And so while this was happening, Moses was on the mountain with the Lord. And so we're going to transition to the second half of the lesson. So we talked about the children of Israel and their sin, their grievous sin. And now we're going to transition and talk about Moses. And so while he was on the mountain with the Lord told him what was happening. He says, you need to go down because the people have corrupted themselves. And explaining what they had done, and God said, you know, this is a stiff-necked people. And when we use the word stiff-necked, the writer of the lesson gives this illustration of a horse with reins, and the horse is being stiff and stubborn and will not move because he does not want to be guided by the reins. And so God is angry about this, that the people so quickly have violated the covenant that they agreed upon. And he says, so he begins to test Moses by saying, I'm going to destroy this people and I'll make a people through you, Moses. And so Moses responded, and he passed the test, and that he asked God for mercy on behalf of the people. He intercedes for the people, and he reminds God that you gave them a promise, and the promise came through Abraham. It can't come through me, and this is your people, not my people. And lastly, what would the Egyptians say if you delivered them and you did all these great works and great wonders, and then they came out in the wilderness and you destroyed them? And so Moses interact with God. And this is what I like about this. I love how we can talk to God. He is, yes, our creator. Yes, he's our Lord and Master and King, but we can talk to him. We can talk to him, and he hears our prayers and he hears our petitions. And so we see this dialogue going back and forth with Moses and with the Lord, and then the Lord repents. And when I say repents, not because he did sin, but the repent in the Hebrew is that he feels sorry and so he has regret. And so he does not destroy the children of Israel, and we're going to find out next week how he handles the sin of the children of Israel. And so I'm going to give us the aim of our lesson and wrap it up for this week. Today's aim in our lesson is to see clearly that sin is an offense to God. God does not take sin lightly. God does not take sin lightly. We don't hear a lot about sin, but he does not take it lightly. The principle of the lesson is to understand how God responds to sin of his people. And the application is to anticipate God's response to our own sin and what we need to do about it. And so that's our application. That's our lesson. Next week, again, we'll find out how the Lord handles the children of Israel. I love you. I thank you for your support and your encouragement in our weekly Sunday school lesson. I hope you had a safe Halloween, and God bless you until next week. Bye-bye.